Sean Straker. Not all Californians. That's right.
I don't know, Sean. I lived in California. I've met Californians.
Okay. I think we're good.
And good morning. Good morning. How you holding up there, Cameron?
I'm good. I still feel like that the music needs to fade a bit more as it comes down because it's like whoa, whoa.
Yeah, and I don't know how to change that. I don't know how to fade that more. Let me rephrase. I know how to fade that more, but I don't know how to do it without causing everything else to fade more. It's a thing. But anyway, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Indeed, good morning.
And somehow I seem to be missing one of my articles now. I had several articles pulled up. But thankfully I'm brilliant and I put a link to the article in question in the description. So if you the main article
this is
that
the
we're going to be
article
talking
I think
about,
that it is, don't scroll down to the last line. Well, don't scroll down to the last line on the live view.
what did I miss?
If this,
You mean
the one that
in
was
the comments section?
No, not the comment section. The line in the article. If it's the one that got dropped in the thread yesterday, then we can't scroll down to the last line. Oh, this is not the article that got dropped in the thread, so we're good. We're good. While you're
Okay.
doing that, I'm going to say...
This is an article that came from the infamous thread, but okay, so
good morning
and Danny's with us already. Thank God. You guys were talking about some stuff last night that not exactly the same stuff, but I'm going to reference it a little bit today.
Dude, fusion in 10 years? That would be...
That would be amazing, but that's not what I'm talking about. Well,
right.
Indirectly, yes.
Yeah, so good morning to Sean Stryker. Good morning to...
Brandon says audio. We're getting audio over here.
Yeah, nobody else has...
So,
maybe...
the rest of you guys, let me know if you're missing...
No, I think it's on his end. So
good
morning, Sean
Brandon.
Stryker. Good morning, Pancho Ramirez. Good morning, Habeas Corpses. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Megan. And then, of course, there's Danny. Good morning. And good morning, Sean Stryker. Now, Andrea's having problems, but...
I've got enough 5x5 that I'm just going to roll with it. So... If the rest of you are deaf, I'm sorry about that. I am, however, going to turn my own monitor down a bit.
Okay.
Which are not words I ever expected to hear myself saying. Mostly because I'm deaf as a post. I can't hear myself say things. Anyway,
so yeah. Oh, I see what happened. She said
Gotcha.
no good here, and it was supposed to be no, comma, good here. and fucking Oxford comma, man. All right, so let's talk about
you can have my Oxford comma over my cold dead and unyielding hands.
Right. So let's talk about we call it Democrat idiocy, and the first article you're going to reference is Democrat idiocy, but dude, we've talked about this before. It's idiocy when you don't know any better.
Correct.
This is malice.
We're seeing a consistent pattern from the Democrat that guarantees to us that this is a case of malicious activity. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the article and touch it a little bit.
Sean Stryker says, if my fellow Californians would help fill in my assembly, we could eject a nuisance. You remember...
Gavin Nuisance, I like that.
Well, you remember, it wasn't that long ago when California had an opportunity to have Larry Elder be their governor, and then, because Larry Elder's a bombastic personality, it became about Larry Elder's bombastic conservative personality instead of
right,
how bad
because
Gavin
he's the
Newsom...
black white supremacist.
Yes. Instead of about how bad Gavin Newsom sucks.
Yeah, and
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I want y'all to remember this. You had a chance, Californians. You had a chance to fix this, and you chose not to. So we've got this article that starts, Truckpocalypse begins in California this week as 70,000 truckers forced off the roads due to Democrat idiocy. So as soon as I saw this article, it wasn't even as soon as I saw the article, Patrick called me yesterday. Like, Lowry, did you read the article? No, I've been busy all day. What article? The California's canceling truck drivers. Oh God. Okay. And I said, you know what? I remember a couple of years ago, there was this whole thing. And many of you who watch the show probably remember several years ago, Cameron and I both did a stint driving for Uber and Lyft. Like I was doing it in my spare time between classes when I went back to college for a while. And this, there was this big deal about New York and California especially, taking aim at gig workers. They were creating a bill that was going to force Lyft and Uber to treat their employees, to treat their drivers, not just the administrative employees, but all the drivers as employees instead of contractors. Now, that's ridiculous because the way that those guys work, you have an app and you work when you want to work. You're not on a company schedule, right? You turn on the app, and if somebody wants a ride, you give them a ride. And then if you don't want to drive anymore, if you don't want to work anymore,
you turn
it off.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Right? And like one of the gigs that I do now for the real estate stuff, it's not quite that instantaneous on and off the clock. I maintain a calendar, and anywhere that I leave gaps in the calendar, these guys will try to stick in a real estate house shoot. And it's similar in that I don't work for the company on the company's schedule. I tell the company when I'm available, and if they have work, they offer it to me, and I accept it. If they have work and they offer it, I accept it if I'm not busy. But California was, I remembered, oh yeah, wasn't California trying to do some fuckery like this with the gig workers before? And there was another piece at the same time where they were doing something similar to independent journalists. It was illegal to work. It was going to be made illegal in California to work as a journalist unless you worked for an outlet. You couldn't be an independent journalist that wrote articles and then sold them to various outlets, which is where, by the way, the majority of articles come from. Independent journalists write it, and then they pitch it to, they've got their regular outlets that they work with, and they pitch it to all those outlets and get picked up for it. And as I'm reading this bill, as I'm reading this article, I see it mention down here AB5, right? The California Truckers Association is warning that 70,000 independent truck owners, that number is going to be, this number is about to be put into sharp perspective for you in just a second here when I bring up some other numbers. But operators will be taken off the roads of California later this week as a draconian new law, AB5, kicks in. In addition to the direct impact on California's 70,000 owner-operators who have 7 days to cease long-standing independent businesses, the impact of taking tens of thousands of truck drivers off the road will have devastating repercussions on an already fragile supply chain, increasing costs and worsening runaway inflation. The new law, passed and signed by Democrats, essentially outlaws independent contractors from operating transport trucks in the state of California. When it goes into effect later this week, after the U.S. Supreme Court refused to intervene last week, California will be hit with a truckpocalypse shutdown of transportation capacity. So back up at the top here. This article is from July 5th of this year. So just a couple weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago. But they're talking about AB 5. So AB 5 was, updated January 9th, 2022. But AB 5 was originally passed as a California General Assembly Bill 5, AB 5 is a piece of legislation signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom. Governor Newsom in September of 2019. It went into effect on January 1st, 2020, and required companies that hire independent contractors to reclassify them as employees, with a very few exceptions. In September 2020, the California legislature passed Assembly Bill 2257, which rewrote a number of the requirements of AB 5 and exempts a substantial list of job categories. It says, this test assumes that workers are employees unless the company that hires them can prove the following three things. The worker is free to perform services without the control or direction of the company. The worker is performing work tasks that are outside the usual course of the company's business activities. The worker is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature as that involved in the work performed. So, what they're basically saying is that you're not allowed to do any kind of contract work for any company unless you essentially work for another company that already does that kind of contract work, or that already does that kind of work on a non-contract basis. So you can't be an independent handyman. You can't be an independent journalist. You can't be a gig economy worker. You can't be a real estate photographer unless you work for a real estate agency or as a W-2 employee of a real estate photography agency. Something like that, that kind of thing. So back to the bit about the intentional misconduct here. If this were happening in any other state, with a very few exceptions, it would be a big damn deal. There are very few states in the union where saying you can't drive trucks through this state doesn't have a massive negative effect on the supply chain.
However,
right, you got to get stuff from the port in Savannah, Georgia, to Mississippi, and Alabama says no. Then all of a sudden, your prices in Mississippi just went up because you added 1,000 or so miles to the truck route, increased gas costs,
or to the boat route.
Time, or
to the boat route.
Or to the boat route. Yeah.
I mean, it's and when you're dealing with big ports like that, these ports are built so that literally you can have dozens and dozens of ships roll through, offload their cargo, and then have trucks roll up, put them on the truck. They're incredibly efficient operations. There's a reason why in all the mob movies, the mob guys, they want a piece of the action from the docks.
Yeah.
Because millions of dollars of stuff flow through those docks every day. Every day. And look, two pieces. One, what California is really saying here is that it's more difficult to be an independent contractor, period. And here's who that affects. That affects retired people that want to continue working and maybe supplement their income. That affects people that want to start their own business but can't quite make the full go of it, so they're willing to make the leap and kind of be their own owner-operator on a small scale. And it affects young entrepreneurs that don't want to go work for somebody else. They'd rather take the risk. They're young. They can afford to fail. That's who this hurts. This does not hurt Hollywood, for example, because all them fuckers are in a union, right? This does not hurt those very same CEOs that the left claims to hate so much. No, this doesn't hurt them. This hurts the small and medium-sized person. This theoretically could hurt Chris and I if we lived in California with the independent contracting gigs that we occasionally take for film work. If I had my way, that would be all I would do. I have a real passion for that. I wish I had had a camera placed in my hands sooner in my life. I'd be in a different position. Now, the other part of that is California's got all these ports. We know this, okay? This independent trucking thing, my ex-wife worked for a company in Hiram, Georgia. It was a tiny office, had a half a dozen people working in the office, but they would move dozens and dozens and dozens of loads a week. And it would work like this. It'd be like, hey, we've got a load coming out of Miami that's going up to Nashville, and it's like a one-time thing. So we need an independent trucker to do it. It pays $5,000. We've got this list of people that we work with. And so what this company would do is they would network together smaller businesses with independent truckers, and they would very deliberately try and organize things and be like, oh, you know what? I happen to have established a relationship with this one trucker. He usually takes a load down to Florida on Monday or Tuesday, but he lives back up north. So him taking a load to Nashville and getting paid for it is perfect. I'm going to call him up, and then Extra Mile gets a tiny piece of that $5,000 contract. It's how everybody stays in business. And the small businesses are okay with it because they're guaranteed transportation. The truckers are okay with it because they're guaranteed to have work continue coming in.
Right. Well, not just work continue coming in, but like, you know, a trucker that's got a delivery where, you know, he's going to pick it up in Kentucky and take it to Florida. Oh, now I'm in Florida and I need to pay for the gas
to go back to Kentucky. Right, exactly.
Hell with that. I want a load. They call those they call them deadhead loads. When they're going somewhere and they don't have a return route. And that's bad business.
Yes.
You don't ever want to not have a load.
But what I was getting to is that there is so much of our logistics about our supply chain that functions exactly as I just described. It's a bunch of small to medium-sized businesses, in some cases some larger businesses, dealing with a bunch of owner-operators and logistics companies making it all work, okay? So if the state that's got all these ports that the entire country relies on suddenly says all these small and medium-sized businesses can't use independent operators anymore, you've created a bottleneck in an already damaged supply line. And again, this is the kind of thing, this will not hurt your big, giant, evil megacorporate. This is not going to hurt Walmart or McDonald's. Wow, the microphone is sensitive.
It is.
That's
a good microphone.
That was in another room.
Upstairs.
But this is not going to hurt Walmart or McDonald's. This is going to hurt you and I and Chris and the local coffee shop in the downtown square of whatever town you live in. That's some small-time owner-operator. They're doing it because they want to march to the beat of their own drummer and run their own business. That's who this hurts. And it's just like Obamacare. The effects of this are so predictable, so obviously fucking predictable. It's not an accident.
Right.
It's by design.
It would be unreasonable to attribute incompetence to this kind of absolute devastation, predictable, destructive activity.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that somebody would continue to hit their thumb on purpose with the hammer, and yet after they do it like 10 or 12 times, you have to ask yourself, is that motherfucker hitting his thumb on purpose? Because I've told him like 5 times to hold the nail a different way, and he won't listen.
So, where's the silver lining? This does present an opportunity, although I'm concerned that the
Dude, is something wrong? We haven't had a chat in 13 minutes.
That is odd, but maybe they threw us off the air. But there is an opportunity presented here that says if California is just going to cut off its nose to spite its face, if they're going to declare war on the United States.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that was the first thing that I thought. I said, okay, is this the straw that breaks the camel's back? Is one dumbass state is allowed to economically impact the other 47 in its orbit? Okay.
Right. And
silver lining. I'm sorry. It just, you said war, and it was like, actually, the Civil War thing was the first thing that popped up into my brain.
Oh, so you have major shipping ports in Texas, in Georgia, in Mississippi, in Florida, in conservative states. And the correct answer here is going to be for the governors in those states to take advantage and say, yeah, we're not going to mess with this. We're not going to deal with your BS. We need to see, bring it on. Bring your shipping boats, bring everything to Georgia, bring everything to Texas. We will incentivize you to come and do business with us here. And that's going to be the place where we might be able to recover. And
we just got a message from Alex that says they had similar problems last night. He thinks it's a bug on Restream's end that they're
gotcha. Because we're suddenly not seeing the chat over here.
No, he thinks it's a bug on their end.
Gotcha. So I'll try rebooting the Restream chat and see if that doesn't fix it. Somebody make a comment and see if it comes back in. It updated the view count. That's something. Where I'm worried about the silver lining here, as much as there may be a silver lining, this is what I was going to reference from Alex Danny show last night. They were talking about fusion. They didn't quite get into cold fusion, but that's kind of the direction that they're going to be able to see fusion as a viable energy source within 10 years. But they were talking about how Elon Musk has done several things in the solar space, and that's gonna trickle into the hydro space. And by hydro, I'm not talking about like hydroelectric plants. I'm talking about hydrogen cell economics. But the thing that has slowed it down is government regulation. And just like this is government getting involved. This is government sticking its nose into the pot and causing a problem. The bill was passed and signed into law more than 2 years ago. We're not talking about a bill that's just now being signed into law. We're talking about a bill whose provisions are just now going into effect, which means that this has been a known variable for 2 years, and we have not seen anyone. We haven't seen Kemp, DeSantis, Abbott, anyone of consequence in that space start to campaign on doing something about it.
Well, I think there's a lot going on there. Okay, first of all, when we're talking about the Pacific Ocean, the biggest ocean in the world, and now we're going to tell all these ships, you got to go even further, and that all by itself is a problem. Okay.
Oh yeah, huge.
And then I feel like for the past few years, there's been a big, giant, lung-pao-sickin' flavored distraction that, look over here, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Instead, less than 1% of you are going to die from a virus that totally didn't come from China at all.
And by the way, you can't catch it from your Amazon boxes. Just saying.
You morons, okay?
God, right after the pandemic started, I got a package from Amazon, and there was a sticker on the side of it that said something about China. And so Penelope was 7, and she comes in and taps me on the shoulder. Hey, Dad, you got a package from Amazon. It's out in the garage. I didn't pick it up. It says something about China. Can I set it on fire?
You've done something right. But look, campaigning on all this, here's the deal, okay? And this is somewhat related to the fact that the Supreme Court has not intervened on this. For better or for worse, the Supreme Court has operated as an appellate court for a couple hundred years, I'm not necessarily saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying it's a factual thing.
Right.
Okay. And the way that it works is a law goes into effect, takes effect, and then is challenged. And it's usually the challenge to the law that the Supreme Court. Hey, there's the chat. I should have been checking it on my phone. That's my fault.
Yeah, we're not getting any of your messages in our regular chat stream here for some reason.
Yeah, thanks guys. We love you. So, anyhow, but I think the Supreme Court was right to not intervene. We don't want the Supreme Court to start intervening on laws on the come. Like, we just don't. Like, oh, yeah, that if this, then that, so we're just going to go ahead and intervene proactively. Yeah, no, that is a power. The court already has too much power. That is a power I don't want the court to assume. But man, like, seriously, and I don't want to go too dark here, and I'm not actually advocating violence, Facebook and YouTube. This is a thought experiment, not a thought experiment. I've had enough of those in my life. I mean, a thought experiment. Yeah, okay, it was bad. My first thought was like, seriously. Ew, no. Ew, no. My first thought was like, okay, is this a straw that breaks the camel's back? Do they want the rest of the country to just march into California and seize the ports? Is that what they want to happen? Because look, at some point, okay, there's a reason why good people resort to violence. They'll avoid it. They'll do whatever they can to get around it. That's what most good people will do. But at some point, good people say, you know what? The nonviolent thing is not working. I mean, look, to put it in pure economics terms, at some point, the violence is cheaper.
Well, and here's another piece of that. The argument that is used to allow for the federal government to control substances, that allows for the existence of the drug war, the interstate trade argument, is that the federal government has authority over interstate commerce. Now, it's not an entirely credible argument. The language is to make regular, so I would actually argue that the Commerce Clause gives the government more authority over a situation like this than over something like drug control laws. But the point being, this is precisely the kind of a maneuver made by an individual state, which the Commerce Clause of the Constitution was designed to prevent. And so the Supreme Court has chosen not to take up a couple of cases against this particular law and overturn it as unconstitutional is alarming. But I'll take that another step too.
Well, legal tradition says somebody has to challenge the law.
It has been. The Supreme Court had an opportunity to hear a case on this last week, and they chose not to. That said, the Commerce Clause, I believe it says the Congress shall make regular commerce between states. What should be happening here is the Congress should in fact be passing a law to disallow this law being written in California. If California wants to say that truckers need to pay an extra tax or something like that, that's one thing. But to say, hey, you trucker that lives and works in Iowa, you're no longer allowed to accept contracts in California. Oh, but that's a thing that's happening between two states.
Not only that,
you don't have that authority, California.
That's good. How many truckers are we short right now?
So I pointed out that we're about to lose, according to the Truckpocalypse article, the California Truckers Association is warning that 70,000 independent truck owner-operators will be taken off the roads of California later this week, right? So at present, as of January 12th, 2022...
And this is according to Forbes.
And this is according to Forbes.
Okay.
If you've shopped at a supermarket, you would have noticed all the bare shelves. There is no definitive timeline for the delivery of the new car you excitedly put a down payment on months ago. Companies are losing business. There's a bigger problem that hasn't been addressed. We can receive all the goods from China around the world, but if there are not enough truckers to deliver them to stores, we will continue to see empty shelves. Truck drivers move around 71% of the U.S. economy's products across the country. The American Trucking Associations report that this sector is headed for a 160,000 driver shortage by 2030.
So currently we've got an 80,000.
Currently we're around 80,000. The
And that's going
industry
to
needs
double.
at least 80,000 new truckers. And it makes me wonder if this number, 160,000 drivers in deficit by 2030, isn't in part based on the projections of the damage that was about to be caused at the time of the writing of this article, that was about to be caused by California AB5. So we are looking at basically what's happening is the Democrats are going out of their way to do things to hurt America.
Because fossil fuel's bad, Chris. They're bad.
If you see a Democrat suggest that something needs to be done about a thing, and you have a tiny tickle in the back of your head that says, I don't think this is going to work the way you want it to work, let me assure you, you're wrong. It is going to work exactly the way that they want it to work.
They're just going to lie to you. Yeah.
Just like Obamacare, we got, when we caught Gruber on a hot mic saying, oh yeah, this was always the plan.
Yeah, it's right there.
This was designed. Yeah, it's right there on the board. See, this is how it works. The point to Obamacare was to crash the U.S. medical economy and infrastructure in order to force single payer. That's what this is. The Democrats are working to burn down everything that makes America work so that they can recreate it in the image of their master, of Marx.
Of pansexual.
Ouch.
Yeah, something like that. Look, just to be clear, all right, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to shut up because I know we're after 8 o'clock. By the way, your wife says the good idea fairy is on their side. We figured out a way to bring at least the YouTube chat back up. So
well,
thanks,
okay,
guys.
see, the ones that are in, oh no, this is just, yeah, so we've only got the chat from YouTube.
That's right.
The ones in blue are the moderators.
Live chat.
No, I
right
got
there.
that, but see, some of these names are in different colors.
That's right. Yes.
Oh, by the way, just in case Steve has to go on vacation again, Habeas, you have been awarded a banhammer.
That's right. The entire, not just American economy, the world economy, but we'll call it the American economy, does not exist without trucks.
Correct.
Period. End of sentence. Full stop. Okay? And it's not just long haul trucking, guys. Okay? Things like ambulances are modified trucks. Okay? The fact that about 100 years ago, suddenly Farmer Bob could just load all his stuff in the back of a thing, turn a crank a few times, and then bring his stuff to market and sell it, revolutionized economies all over the world. Absolutely. You didn't have to worry about your truck dying of dehydration. Okay? And it went faster than a horse as well, eventually. There was kind of hairy at first.
Right. Well, okay. So I've got some comments here. Stryker says boats, and Fee says trains, planes. Boats get stuff into the country from out of the country. Trains and planes move stuff over longer distances, but not most stuff. It's still about a little over 70%, right? Nearly 3/4 of everything that gets moved around the states within the country is put on a truck, not a train, right? So, you use the trains and the trucks to get things away from the ports and out to distribution centers. But once you get to a distribution center with a train, you're not going from a distribution center onto a plane or a train. You're going on a truck. And what you're probably doing is you're going on a large 18-wheeler to go to an even smaller distribution center, where then you get put onto a delivery van until eventually you're at your end user.
Yeah, look, when I did commercial pest control, a lot of what I worked were distribution centers, and like they were plants that were built on top of railroad tracks. Yep. And there was a plastics plant that I worked for that was miserable. I had to take a shower afterwards every time because you'd get covered in all this itchy plastic dust that was just awful. Okay.
Steve, remember Kerr McGee? No,
right.
Engelhard. It was Engelhard. They had the microspherical crude oil scrubbing chemicals. Yep, yeah.
But the largest the largest section of that plant was a bay of, I forget if it was 24 or 30. I used to have it memorized, but it's been a couple of years. But they had a bay of like 30, we'll call it 24. They had a big giant bay of 24 doors where a truck would back up to it, an 18-wheeler.
Yep.
All right, get chalked in, and then it would get loaded up with plastic, and it would drive away. And you kept your head on a swivel when you were out in that section of the parking lot. And that's just how these things work. So anyhow, I wonder how many of those were independent operators that were like, oh, man, you got a load of plastic going to Mississippi? Oh, perfect. I'm trying to go home to Mississippi for a couple of days.
Yep.
You know, they say so goes California, so goes the rest of the country. God, I hope not.
You know, I think the Reverend Maynard said it best. I want to see it go down.
Oh,
I want to suck it down. I want to flush it all away.
Fuck all you junkies and fuck all you insecure actresses.
Fuck all you junkies and fuck your short memories.
Yep.
I think I'm going to have to listen to that whole album on my way to my first shoot this morning.
That's a good idea.
All right, you guys.
Yeah, we're so long. We're long.
So long. Y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow. And, you know,
yes,
learn to swim. Learn to swim. See you down in Arizona Bay. Because I'm praying for tidal waves.
Stop it.